Hey, what's up, everybody? This is KG from Jaw 7. Welcome to another new episode. It is glad to be back after a long hiatus here, literally being a Snorlax and hibernating for quite a while. But I am here today to bring you a special guest with an interview with the one and only control player in the Valley, Alejandra Flores. And in today's
Hello, hello.
interview, yes, go ahead, Alejandra, say hello out there to the entire world in RGV.
Hi, everyone. We did it.
Yes, we did it. So, yes, as you know, we recently had the Pokemon Regionals in Sacramento, California. And of course, some of our RGV's finest from the Pokemon TCG community went to compete over there. And we're proud to say that we had two of our RGV finest make day two over there, which is quite an accomplishment. And so, in today's episode, we have Alejandra Flores here to talk about. She's going to talk about her deck selection today, the cards she chosen, and just her overall experience at this Pokemon regional events. Okay, so Alejandra, we're glad you're here today. Anything you want to say out there to the community, or just anything out there that you want to say to the people or to your people?
Thank you to Billy, Ozzy, and Dylan for just hanging out the whole event. That was extremely helpful, so I didn't have to sit there waiting for the round. There was a lot of downtime between events, which I didn't think there would be. You sit there for like an hour waiting, but it was very helpful to have them there. We found the food over there was good, weather was nice, but uh, I'm I had booked my flight for Sunday. I didn't think I was gonna do that well. It worked out, but I think those three were a big help of it, especially Billy with deck list ideas.
Cool, that's awesome. And yeah, and pretty much Alejandra just kind of talking about the weekend itself. So, to my understanding, is this your? Because I know the community want to know. Is this your first regional that you've gone to for TCG in general for Pokemon?
Correct. This is my first Pokemon regional. I attended Smash Bros. Majors and regionals, but for TCG, this is my first one.
Oh, okay, cool. Now, just a little brief history about Alejandra. From my point of view, Alejandra got in about what, a year ago? Is that correct? Like a year, like
Yeah, I like the start of this year we started playing.
yeah. And so at Kaboom, and Alejandra was like she said just right now, was more into the Smash Brothers scene, and then kind of transitioned into the card scene, and so yeah, and then just kind of just here we are, so going to the first regional. I personally thought that last year you attended the San Antonio regionals, but you were still kind of dabbling into the game or still playing into it, right? Like at least in the local scene, or
Yeah,
Alejandro.
yeah, yeah. I didn't end up attending. What's it called? I didn't end up attending San Antonio because registration failed in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
But I was like, we'll go next year. It's fine. But after playing locally more, I really, really wanted to go to some, so that's why I decided to go to Sacramento, San Antonio, and NAIC this year.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, and to my understanding, this is your first day two, also making day two at your first tournament, right? So
Yep,
awesome.
first day too.
Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment right there. For being also a young player into this, into the card game. So quite an accomplishment, and obviously we're looking for big endeavors for you in the future. I believe, I want to say over the summer, I believe Daniel Casas too, also first NIC makes day two, am I right on? And he's just a little bit older than you, I think, if not, around the same age in that category. So it's kind of cool to see all these young Pokemon TCG players from the Valley up and coming. So good to hear that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, and I know Alejandra just kind of just recapped her weekend overall, and shout outs to her crew. Is it safe to assume that you did room over there with Billy and Dylan and Ozzy, or you had your own thing going over there in Sacramento?
Uh, I was over there with my family actually.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I didn't travel with. They were staying at a different hotel, like 10 minutes away. But we went to lunch together like during the week.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay. So you travel with family, but then for the duration of the event, of course, you hanged out with the Valley people pretty much. So that's what
Yep.
matters. Cool. All right. So right now we're gonna go ahead and give out the. We're gonna talk about the main ingredients to Alejandra's deck list, and I'm gonna pull it out right now. So here we are, and so I have the deck list in front of me. You're 60. and just kind of you want to talk through your 60 Alejandra, or pretty much
For sure.
what was the inspiration behind this, and yeah, go into detail about your deck list.
For sure. I got a couple things to say about it.
Sure.
First of all, Cornerstone throwing. So originally, I didn't have it. I was on 4 Snorlax, 3 Mimikyus, just because that's helpful in the Drago matchup and the Raging Bolt matchup, the Rulets matchup, things like I wasn't sure what the meta was going to be, and I did some bouncing on and off with Billy and John Collin about what I should be teching for, what to expect. Uh, Zard, as it got closer and closer up to the day of, Zard looked really, really scary. So I wasn't gonna run Cornerstone. I decided to, and then I ran into 1 Charizard, and I immediately lost. So Cornerstone was a bit of a waste. Should have played the 3rd Mimikyu. Would have made life easier. But it is what it is. It wasn't like it was kind of a dead card most of the weekend. But regardless, it did its job.
Okay, so you did have a Cornerstone in your list.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the list I have, just for the people out there, there is no Cornerstone up here, but he did have one in there.
Oh,
so yeah. So this could have been an older list I have, but you know, people know what's up, you know. So so
No, yeah.
so
I just forgot to change it on PCGL, which is where I got the limitless thing from.
Oh,
so
okay.
exact same 60, just 1 Mimikyu for a Cornerstone.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so okay, all right, go ahead and continue.
So this is the Rotom List version of Snorlax. It's a little contentious on which one's better right now. I don't like Rotom. I'm a believer in boxed orders and a prayer. So in those lists, you should just don't play 4 Arvins. Usually go down to 2 and play something like Morty's Conviction, Chorus Experiment, just to dig further. I love Arvin, just guaranteeing counter catcher every time. Crazy. Just needed, necessary. So I decided to play 4 of those. 3 pennies is pretty stock standard. I miss 4, but no space.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I had run 1 Airy leading up to the event, but due to Lost Zone exploding with that Pikachu, Airy is just a necessary evil, or you will lose every time.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up fighting 2 Lost Boxes, I think. 2 or 3, I think 2. I fought 2 of them. Airy, my goat, came in when I needed her. She hit the 2 switch cards every time. She did her job real well.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, Airy's such a good card. It's just very disruptive, very, very disruptive, especially early game, and get out those switch cards. I know for quite a while Zard was running it to get rid of those rare candies on Chip Pal. You know, it's just such a disruptive card, and especially if you can get out early game, and once you do it, they're just sitting there, you know. And but yeah, so also looking at your list, I see that you have a Grosha there.
Oh, Grusha.
Grusha.
So in the no, I think it's Grusha. It's Grusha or Grusha. Anyways,
Grusha, yeah.
in the no Rotom build of Lax, we don't have 30 card hands anymore, and there's a chance a late game disruption just shatters our board.
Mm-hmm.
Or even early game setting up. Let's say your hand's like Nest Ball, Heavy, Pokegear. You're thinning your hand down so much, she just becomes I'll draw 5 cards for no downside. I agree.
Yeah.
She's just a setup card. She's a bit of a win more card, but in the right moments, she just saves your board because she gets you like counter catcher, a penny for next turn. She's insane.
Right, most definitely.
I kind of want to.
Yeah, and so for anyone that's out there that's new to the TCG for Pokemon, and anyone that's listening, Block Snorlax is a very different type of archetype as far as winning the game. And in case any of you don't remember or forgot, there's 3 ways to win in the Pokemon TCG community or in the game itself. One of them is obviously taking your 6 prizes. Another win condition or a win con is knocking out the only active Pokemon and there's none on the bench. And then the last one is pretty much making your opponent run out of cards, which is pretty much that's what Block Snorlax kind of focuses with its ability. Just pretty much traps any Pokemon in place, and pretty much the opponent has to be very resourceful in what they have and using wisely. But of course, Block Snorlax is more prepared than ever because they have quite the cards to disrupt hands, just to get rid of items, and just pretty much, if anything, personally, the one card that really makes this deck really work, and is pretty much the flute. I can't really see the bigger word of it, but it's maybe you can, Alejandra.
Accompanying flute.
Yeah, there we go. Accompanying flute. Just such a powerful card. And me playing against Block Snorlax a while back, it wasn't really a big deal. But with the accompanying flute, it really disrupts. It goes after the opponent's support Pokemon, Fezandipiti, Manaphy, Lumineon, and pretty much it just brings it up to the board, and the opponent has to go through 6 prizes because that's their win condition. And so when that happens, here comes Alejandra with that Pokemon catcher, and then you're stuck, and you have to kind of rely on your little bit of luck and just pretty much the few resources. Because again, I think it was a great meta call. I even on my end, I remember telling Joel when I heard the news, I'm like, well, I think Alejandra can make a deep run here, so long as it doesn't run into those pesky dark decks. But I spoke too soon because I believe you ran into 2 of them. Is that what I understood?
I did. There was like 30 in the room, and I managed to hit 2. That was insane.
Yeah. And mind you, there's regionals, there's like 1,700 people, I want to say. Quite a few people. Back in the day, it was like maybe 800, but now it's just the card game and Pokemon just blown up so much, which is a good thing for the community. So that's awesome. So continue on the deck list. Secret Box, such a great card. The fan itself, just moving that energy away. Luxurious Cape, very good. Bravia Charm. The stadiums, very good. I think the box order is such a great card for early game, for Alejandra to get anything that they want to do at the beginning. Of course, their turn ends, but that's okay because they're passing anyways. So, but yeah, just overall. And pretty much, Alejandra, for anyone out there that has an interest for control or stall, what would you recommend for them if they were going to dive into the Snorlax or the Mill, the Great Tusk? Any advice you give to anyone out there that wants to dabble into that kind of archetype for in this particular deck itself?
So the thing is, with the deck, I wouldn't call it like difficult. It's a low skill ceiling to where you can learn all of the lines pretty quickly. It's more, everything with the deck is everything outside of it. Just, if you know your 60, you're fine, but you need to know your opponent's 58 as well as possible. So when upcoming to the event, I would just look through all the lists on Limit List on YouTube, and I would just look, what are your switch outs, what are your tur outs, your pow pads, all those. Just get the estimation for everyone's outs to get through the lock, right? So I was familiar with, okay, if I run into a Cerule Edge, they don't play Mimikyu outs. Put down 2 Mimikyu and shake their hand. So you just need to... It's all outside and time management. That clock. I could have gone... Both of my ties should not have been ties. I managed the clock poorly just because I'm not too experienced in best of 3 yet. I should have scooped earlier. But, if those did not... One of them I had, win locked up, and I threw it away just because I didn't manage my clock correctly, unfortunately. But, clock management is super, super, super important. That's for sure the biggest thing, is you have to pay attention to the clock. You have to keep your opponent from slow playing. You have to keep them honest, or you will never win.
Right, most definitely. I definitely agree. Especially those that are new to the card game. Regionals, it's going to be best of 2 out of 3. And in the local scene, it's preference to the TOs. But most of the sanctioned events are going to be best of 1. Unless it's a cup, you go to, with the top cut, there's going to be 2 out of 3. So, yes, Alejandra's right. You definitely got to manage the clock. And, of course, you still have to keep up with the pace of play. I believe in the rules itself, you have between anywhere 10 to 15 seconds. Anything more than that, that would be a gray area or a caution or a warning, and it could get upgraded to a 2 price penalty. So yeah, Alejandra's right. If you're gonna pilot this deck, you definitely got to know your opponent's. You got to know your opponent's deck for sure. The outs, the card count, cards in hand, resources, and so it is. In my opinion, I think playing a control deck or block Snorlax, I think this is a deck you can't just pick up and face roll on the day of the tournament or even a week. In my opinion, I think you need lots of practice on it, and it's interesting because a lot of people, especially locally, and I'm just gonna throw the trolls out there, but they complain about this deck a lot when they play against it because surely, maybe they're guilty of their list, right? I don't know, but or they're outs to not have a good time with it. But quite honestly, it's just I think when you go against it, I personally feel like you gotta know the matchup no matter what, especially if you're one, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're trying to be competitive or serious about it, you can't be serious about it but then say, well, I'll never play against a block Snorlax. Like, that's impossible. Like, especially you're going to regionals, unless you're just kind of like chillaxing, okay, fine. But if you're like serious about winning or doing well or being slightly competitive, like, you can't just say that I'll never play against a control deck, because they do exist and they're going to be out there. And just even the tactic itself of kind of stalling when you bosses order something like the Ursaluna bear, because it's so fat for time and all that. So, but yeah, Alejandra's right. It's just knowing your outs and just knowing the time itself. So with that being said, anything else you want to add about your list, Alejandra, before we move on to your matchups or just your experience overall?
I think Secret Box with Artisan was the carry, just because against the quick decks, which there was many of, as we saw, Lost Box, Raging Bolt, Miraidon, things like that, being able to turn that turn 2 Arven into Nest Ball Artisan, and Arven for next turn, and whatever tools needed in the moment, was so influential, just because I would have a turn to, instead of having to go Arven Nest Ball so I don't get donked and then that's it, because the next turn I have to Arven for another Nest Ball to stay alive, and if I don't have Counter Catcher in hand, it becomes a mess because they're just killing me and I'm falling behind. But with Artisan in the deck, it was able to turn one Arven into 2 Snorlaxes plus one future one every turn with Artisan. So that future Arven, instead of Counter Catcher, or if I have one in hand, I can Sisters, I can Airy. It just allows more aggressive plays.
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. Most definitely. I agree. I also, my question to you is, did you run a one worker in your list?
I did.
Okay. Go ahead.
With worker, the big thing is we played Jubilife Village. Jubilife is the glue that holds us all together, because all my hand's dead. I'll Jubilife Village, draw 5 fresh ones. Like, a shuffle in deck, draw 5, force, and turn. The thing about that, though, is if I, like, let's say I prize my Artisan, I can't bump my own stadium. My opponent can do it forever and will be forced to tie. So most lists only play one way to bump their Jubilife. I played 2 because I refused to let that happen. Just because if all my Silenes flipped tails, I wasn't able to recover Artisan or whatever it was, I just lose because we both Jubilife forever. So that's why I decided it's too important to not run both. And the reason I run a worker over like a second Artisan is just because being able to Pokegear for it was the most important part. Just because Artisan, other than with Secret Box, is unsearchable, whereas Pokegear, just grab worker, destroy stadium. Now we're fine.
Yeah. And one thing for sure about Block Snorlax is that once you get him in the lock, especially the biggest tell from the opponent is that when they're passing, like, your hand is getting pretty big as well. So, and this is the crazy part, is that the opponent is, sitting there with their big hand, but then, here comes that 0-6, and then they got to get rid of their hand. And so this deck has become such a pain in the rear for opponents, because pretty much their strategies that used to work a year ago against these lists would work, especially the prize race. Okay, Rotom, cool, awesome, bring that to me, awesome, 2 prizes. Okay, I have all my resources, and so me playing against it, there was just those windows to attack the deck when needed, but now nothing is safe anymore because there's so many disruption cards And I personally feel, I don't know how you feel about Alejandro, but I think the future of Blockstar Lax is probably going to be um, good for now, and unless the hate is brewing, and it seems like it is, in the RGV with
Oh, for sure. There's
for
gonna be so many moons this weekend. It's gonna be terrible. I'm playing applesauce. Forget this.
right. So, and that's just the nature of the game, nature of meta. Just is he gonna get off it? Likely, and then you show up and like, oh man, he's not off it. Yeah. So yeah, but definitely. All right. So we'll go ahead and wrap up this portion of the deck list. Let me take that off. Now we're going to go ahead and go into Alejandro's opponents for day 1 and day 2. And I do have those matchups in front of me. Let me get that. There we go. So right now on the screen, you're seeing all 12 rounds of Alejandro's matchups. Anything in green, obviously won. Anything in yellow is a tie. Anything red is a loss. So we'll talk about day 1, Alejandra, and we'll just go each round by each round. So round 1. You played a player against Josh, which you did take the dub. Anything you can remember from that matchup, or if you remember that opponent's deck, what they were piloting?
Josh was a lost zone. I was so nervous that the room was going to be full of roaring moons, and I had no idea. And then we sat down, and they flipped over comfy, and I just smiled, because that matchup's awesome. I was like, thank goodness. It's a good run today. We're fine.
And which version of the Lost Box was it? Was it just the Pikachu, Lost Box, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all the Lost Zones this weekend were just Pikachu, which is good for me, because I trap Pikachu and say, good luck.
Right, yeah. Or Comfys for that matter, yeah. So pretty much round 1, just played against Josh, Lost Zone, and that seemed like an easy dub. So we'll go to round 2 against Christopher Danner. That was also a win. Anything you remember from that matchup specifically?
Yes, I do. That one was a Cirilla GX.
Oh, okay.
The funny thing, and the thing in that matchup is, I know some were playing a 1 of or 2 of Fan Rotom, or some way, or Radiant Greninja Palkia build to try to hit that Mimikyu, because without it, at most they're hitting 20 damage. This was not one of those. They were playing the Drillbur engine, where you bench it and search your deck for 5 fightings and trash them.
Okay.
To be turbo. I said, okay, cool. Mimikyu, sign the slip. There was just nothing they could do.
Oh yeah, and so Christopher's reaction, like, well, I ain't winning this, so.
Yeah, we just went to lunch early.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's good that they at least were being good sports about it, So
yeah, it was well spirited. You're like, it happens. It's good to get it done round 2. Now the rest of it be good. And I hope he did well in the event. I didn't check, but I hope he did well.
Okay. Well, Christopher went 4-4. Josh went 3-3. They both dropped, so that kind of answers your question.
They hate my resistance, dude.
Okay, so going to round 3, day 1. Right now you're sitting at 2-0. You went against somebody, Carlos Alejo. So, and you got the dub that one. Anything you remember for that one specifically?
Carlos was a Goldengo.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember what build it was. I don't. Oh, yes, I remember now. It was Goldengo, but they had a monkey. It was Energy Search Pro build, the latest and greatest technologies, right? Mm-hmm. But they were running a Monkey Dory and the Togepi and the Togekiss.
Okay.
They were running a lot of weird stuff in their list. A Spirit Tomb V, but the problem is that person had never played against a Snorlax before, so they benched their own Manaphy and Radiant Greninja. So I didn't have to work for it too hard, honestly, just because it's just they didn't know the matchup, so they benched a bunch of liabilities for me. I was like, cool, counter catcher.
Okay, so it seems like round 3, your flutes kind of got a rest there. They're like, okay, sit here.
Yeah, I couldn't even play them because they benched all their stuff for me.
Okay. Wow, interesting. Now, by game 2, did they adapt and not bench, or did they still do the same errors pretty much, or was there even a game 2
there was, but there was, I want to say 15 minutes left on the clock. Like they didn't scoop. Like this was a newer player that managed to go starting 2-0, which I was like, congratulations. Uh, they didn't scoop game one once it was a losing position. They played out to they drew their last card and lost because of deck out. So there was not much time left. We spent 35 minutes on game one alone. There was 15 minutes, and I'm just thinking, okay, they can kill about one Snorlax every 4 minutes, assuming they're playing as fast as possible. They are not. I'm going to just put stuff on my bench, just all my Mimikyus, all my Snorlaxes. Pass. Like, if I manage to bench everything I can, there is physically not enough time for him to do it. So I'm like, cool, we win. Bench. Cool. GG's.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So moving on to round 4, which you got a tie. You went against Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one, if I was a little bit more experienced in regional formats and best of 3,
Okay.
I think this could have been avoided. I didn't scoop game 1. So game 1, I just bricked, and
What was it
I
against?
should have Lost Zone.
Okay.
I bricked and I said, welp. I thought I could recover it because Lost Zone's a good matchup. I should have just scooped earlier. But then I recognized, yeah, I'm not winning this. Like, let's just go game 2. Game 2, it unfortunately just took a while. I did end up winning because I got to set up. But during these first 2 games, I never saw an Airy and I never saw a Misfortune Sisters. Like, I just never found them in my deck anywhere. So I was like, because if I find those in any semblance of quick time, the game is over. Like, no more playing. I win. But unfortunately, they were just not in the hands. And then game 3, my starting hand was crazy. I went like Snorlax, Sisters, hit 3 switches. Next turn, Airy, hit 2 switches. The game's over. They lose. But there was just not enough time on the clock. They had about 4 or 5 cards in deck, and I don't play the Chiyu technologies or anything like that, so I couldn't mill the last cards, and it ended in a tie, unfortunately.
Wow. So even in that aspect where like your worst case scenario happened, you were still able to manage to get a tie, but you could have easily still won had there been more time. That's crazy. Like,
oh, for sure. If there was 2 more minutes, game was over. Just because they had no more switches. I had milled all of them by the end of the game. It was just a Comfy in front, and I had a Manaphy waiting on the bench. Like, there was no outs for them anymore. There was just not enough time.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm sure he felt like, okay, I'll take the tie.
Oh, for sure.
I'm not worried about. I'm not going to run into billions of Snorlaxes. So yeah, coming, as a regional player, like anyone that's experienced, I mean, 1 or 2 Snorlaxes. If it's 3, that's just an anomaly, right? But but okay, cool. So right now you're sitting at 301. Round 5, you go against somebody named Michael. Anything you remember from that matchup?
Did I win?
Yes, you did win against Michael.
It might have been a Raging Bolt. I want to say it was. Yeah, I believe it was just a Raging Bolt. Unless I brick, which with the Secret Box Artisan Arvin thing, it's very hard for me to. That match was basically an auto win. Yeah, he started Slitherwing, which is not the one I wanted to start. It doesn't really matter though. I just set up a bunch of Snorlaxes. I flew. I hit a
Ogre-Pons.
Yeah, I hit Ogre-Pons, Raging Bolts, and I want to say a Squawk. I was like, cool, I win. Gus Squawk, get out. He could not. I believe there was a game 2, but once again, 1. If I win game 1 and there's 15 minutes or so on the clock, game plan changes from I need to win this game to I'm going to bench 6 Pokemon and say, get through them. You do not have enough time. There's no Rotom. I'm not benching Cornerstone. You have to take 6 prizes individually. You cannot. It's physically impossible. You take 1 Snorlax every 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and then, heaven forbid, I trap something, the game's over. Yeah. Which I did manage to do. I want to say I found like a Latias EX. I just said, Gust. get out. He could not. So
Mm-hmm.
that was just game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Pretty straightforward. Pretty much. Now, keep in mind, everybody. You're hearing like the end results of Alejandra, what he's saying. And I'm sure Alejandra can agree. You still need to make sure you do your proper sequencing, and knowing the deck. You're hearing all the end results, and on paper, you're like, wow, that sounds easy. I should play that deck, but then when you do play it, you're like, okay, man, what pathway do I go? So highly advise that it is a good deck to pilot, and it's a good meta call. But if you don't know what you're doing, or if you have not practiced this, I highly advise to like really work on this deck before because you can trap yourself, and then you're on top deck mode, and then you just bye bye
Yeah.
Snorlaxes. So
Oh, for sure. You're right. I am just kind of like summarizing
right, no,
what the thought process was,
mm-hmm.
but not like the execution of it.
Yeah.
It was more in depth, but that's just like you're right. It's just a summary of it.
Right, which is not a bad thing. I'm just for the audience out there, and trust me, like I say this with all the love for everyone out there, but I know people, realities that play decks, and then like, we all have our blunders, so no worries.
It's true. It's true.
So, yeah. All right, so now you're sitting at round 6. And round 6, you did get a loss against Chen, last name Chen. I don't want to even attempt to pronounce the first name, but you did get a loss. Talk about that matchup, or was that the dark archetype there?
It was the moon.
Ah, okay.
But I have a funny story about this one.
Okay.
I I was I was sitting down. To my left was a Snorlax. To my right was a Snorlax. In front of each of us was a Roaring Moon. We all died together.
Oh man, how unfortunate. And what about the other side? The other side were like, wow, we're chilling. This is great,
All of them were just like, we were just chatting it up, right? Because we all knew, well, like I was sitting next to Cal Connor, which is one of the better Snorlaxes. His lists are always great. So I was sitting next to him. I was like, I have to watch my goat die. This is so sad. It's just all three of us were dying to moons. It was very funny.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm going to go get some chicken now. I got time.
Yeah. And to anyone out, no, go ahead.
I actually managed to get game 1. He prized Petron.
There you go.
And I spammed flutes and I bench locked him. He's like, okay, let's just go game 2. But by then, only 5 minutes or so had passed. So game 2 and 3, there's no universe where I can use that much time to lose or to force a tie, not even win. Force a tie. Game 2 and 3, immediately Nestball Petron. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
He got it, but we did get a game, which I was happy with.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And to anyone out there, just understand that Petron is way different than the Latias EX, especially in the cards. So I know some of you out there that are trying to be cute, like, well, Latias EX is out there. But remember, Latias just says that your Pokemon has no retreat cost. So Snorlax doesn't care about that. If you're trapped, like, you can have anything in the world and you can't retreat. So like, you're stuck. But Petron's ability allows, as long as this is dark, it pretty much is a built-in free switch. So as long as it's a dark type, so it's just even to itself, right? Is that what I'm understanding, Alejandra? Like, if it's stuck in the active, can it retreat as well? Yeah. So
it can switch itself out, but it cannot switch itself in.
Ah, okay. But the other Pokemon has to be dark, which, I mean, it's a dark deck, so
yeah, like they have. The problem with that matchup is even if they had Petron, if they weren't playing Baby Roaring Moon, it's fine because you just go Mimikyu. But they play the one of Baby Moon,
right?
In which case it's over. You cannot win because they can hit through Cornerstone, Mimikyu, and they can't get trapped by Snorlax. That's all your options. The game is over.
Yeah. And were you able to get a read that they had the Manaphy or no? Like, no Manaphy, right? I'm assuming.
No, yeah, no Manaphy or anything. It was just, or even if they did, Petron gets it out of the front, so there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay.
Yeah, I just gonna roll over and die.
Yeah, so Chen actually went, Chen made day 2, so he went 9-1 too, so.
I found him afterwards when results were posted, and like, I was like, good for you. Like he was a cool guy. He was really chill about it. I'm glad he did so well.
Cool. Yeah. So at this point, you're sitting at 4-1-1, and then how did you feel at that point? Like, okay, I got this. I think I can get the next win. What was going through your mind at that moment?
On it was either during round 5 or after round 5. I was like, okay, I have 3 rounds to snag 1 win.
Yeah.
Surely I can find one. And then I hit Petra and I got real sad. I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to round 7, you went against a person named Austin Smith. Austin Smith, round 7. Anything you remember from that matchup? You did get a win there, so.
Austin Smith. And this, what am I right now? 3-1-1? I'm trying to remember the matchup.
4-1-1. 4-1-1.
Oh, 4-1-1? Raging Bull. This was a guy I had fought the day previously in side events.
Okay.
I ran into him, and his face was familiar when we sat down in main bracket. I was like, we've played before, right? Or something. He's like, yeah, we played in side events. So I was like, oh. He's like, I don't even want to play this, really, just because it's not a great matchup. Let me see. Game 1, I believe I just found a Luminion off flute and said, all right, cool, I win. And he wasn't like trying to like speed play it or anything. He wasn't slow playing either. He was just playing his turns out, and he waited till the very last card. Same thing where he didn't scoop quick enough, or I don't even know if it came across him to scoop. But game 1 ended. I was like, okay, cool, usual game plan. But then game 2, I mulliganed 5 times. I was forced to go first because he got to choose, and I only had 1 basic. I'm like, oh, I'm getting donked, and I don't have enough time for game 3. This is bad. It's so over. But even with the 5 mulligans plus a Pokestop, he doesn't have a Raging Bolt to swing.
Wow.
So he has to Iono me, handles me into double Nest Ball, double Flute, Arvin, Pokegear. I'm like, we're fine. We're fine. I immediately, he passes because his hand's just bricked. I immediately double Flute. I fill up his bench from waste to hit Mimikyu. I get 2 Bolts, 2 Ogres, and a Squawk. And I just bench double Mimikyu and penny up all my guys. The game is over. Because he has no more waste to hit Mimikyu. I was like,
yeah.
Like, I got so incredibly low. I should have, I don't know. It was not a good position for him to get 5 extra draws, draw for turn, Pokestop, and do the Pokestop, and all of those miss a way to get Raging Bolt. It was insane.
Well, I mean, consider that if it was meant to be, then it was meant to be, right? So
It's true.
So
It's true.
I mean, that just and you're gonna, and to anyone out there, I mean, if it's if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I can share. I can tell you a bunch of stories where people lose their winning ends, and sometimes it just comes down to the coin flip or the lack of the 1 card to their piece. But in your case, it was totally the opposite, where you're like, well, okay, I get a tie, and then we move on. But then, quite the contrary. The opponent just doesn't. They whiff everything, and then here you are. So
For sure.
So
It was crazy. That was a crazy game for no reason.
Yeah, definitely. So at this point, match slip is signed, and then what was going through your mind at that point where you realize, okay, wow, I'm in day 2. What was going through your head at that time?
I was couldn't believe we did it. As I was saying before, I booked my flight to leave the next day at like 8 a.m. I thought we were going 0-5 drop, and I was okay with that. But it was just, we hit good enough matchups to get there. It was great. I was super excited. I texted my parents like, we did it. It was great. I went over to Billy, Dylan, like they were excited about it too. Like, it was great. Unfortunately, that's when we learned that Dylan was out and Ozzy was out, but it was really good. Like, we were really excited.
Yeah. I was really back home. I was excited for you all, and I was eating some dinner with Joel, and I even dare say that I even dare say that I said, well, I think Alejandra, has. We were talking about some of the matchups. Like, well, I mean, I don't think anyone really, kind of, except for the Roaring Moon, but I don't think they really, I don't think anyone else is gonna tech for it, and the only thing I told Joel was like, well, I mean, day two, just out of spite, those more experienced players, I mean, if they're not gonna, the worst thing they can do is just play for the tie, but at that point, day two, you're trying to make a deep run for a top placement for points or money. Ties don't get you anything, especially that the format's changed. And to anyone out there, what I mean by that is a while ago, or even last season, there was day one, there was 9 rounds. Now day one has 8 rounds because they're trying to speed up the process. So where day twos are maybe a little bit easier to attainable, but don't get me wrong, like you still got to earn it because you got to go through like 8 opponents. But the thing is that because of one less round, day two, if you drop a game or so, you're out of top 8 contention. So essentially, Pokemon is they just changed the format a little bit to where you can get top 8, where they can get more top 8s faster in a format as opposed to, and then people with decent records don't get top 8 for whatever reason. So they kind of, and that'll be for another time, but they kind of just fixed the format a little bit to where they can get top 8, but everyone kind of gets their daily dose of day two pretty much. So at that point, Alejandra's sitting at that. And then your last round was against Tony, which you did lose, but talk to me about that one because I'm very curious too what the conversation or vibe was at that point when you sat down with Tony.
At that point, I was like, okay, we made day 2. Mm-hmm. If this is a good matchup, great. I get to have a chance at placing higher. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it's not a moon. It was a moon.
Okay. Now, you don't mind me asking, did Tony, Tony's record, did he already have his win in it? He did, right? At that point, he already had.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, we were both in. I was like, Ed, it is what it is.
Right. Well, I was going to say, did Tony make conversation like, hey, what are you playing or anything? Just kind of like, okay, obviously IDing wasn't going to work, but not knowing your matchups, right? But just, I guess the vibe was we're going to play it out pretty much, huh?
Yeah, I don't think he had any interest in IDing because he wanted to place as far as possible,
right,
but...
Right.
I was like, we run into moons. It was a bit unfortunate. There were not that many in the room.
Right.
But I managed to hit 2, and Cal Connor also hit 2. It was crazy. The Snorlax that I died next to, we both ran into 2 of them. Insane.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. Now, Tony actually, went 8-3-1, so,
good for them.
Yeah, so... All right, so at that point, you're done for the day. I believe at that point, everyone heard about also Billy making day 2 as well. Mm-hmm. So you and Billy are sitting for day 2. And then just talk to me afterwards. What'd y'all do? Did you grab a bite to eat? Did you check out the vendors? Anything?
We had checked the vendors earlier in the day, when we first got in there. Mm-hmm. We grabbed our swag bags. And we immediately just went to vendors, spent more money than we should. So after it was over, I just went back to the hotel room I was staying in, and we watched Rocky. That was our plan for the week. Since we'd gotten there, we watched one Rocky movie a night. So I just went back, we ordered pizza, and we just watched a movie. It was nice, it was chill, just because I wanted to go to sleep early to be rested for day 2.
Right. What was the call time? 8:30, I'm assuming, or 8?
Yeah. 8:30. I was like, I'm not built to wake up early. This is not good.
For somebody so young that's saying that's kind of funny, but I understand what you mean. So
where's Snorlax player? It's part of the gig.
Part of the gig, right? So all right. So now we're at day 2, and round number 9. You're going against somebody from the U.S. Singh, last name Singh. The first name I don't even want to attempt to say the first name. Rajveer?
This was
Ravir. Yeah.
This was a Charizard. I have a couple thoughts on this match.
Sure.
First of all, I played in day 2 in general. I played so poorly. It was very unfortunate because I had a chance to make a deeper run to top 64, top 32, whatever. But I just played so incredibly sloppy. It was gross. Thinking back on it, I cringe at it just because I could have played so much better. It just wasn't a great day of playing. It was fun, right? But it wasn't the best I could play. I know that for sure. Mm-hmm. This was against a Charizard. My first one of the weekend, I was like, okay, Cornerstone, do your job. Problem was, this Charizard was running so much Snorlax hate in it. He was running Turo, Thornton, I want to say Palpat as well, Cologne, and a Night Stretcher, 2 Sporods, the Dusknoir line, and Grand Tree. Grand Tree allowed him to just explode Dusknoirs on board, and he just kept like blowing me up to about 2 prizes left. I don't know. I said, "Uh-oh, I'm gonna lose." So game 1, I did end up losing. Game 2, he had no more outs to kill Mimikyu, but unfortunately, time ran out with like 3 cards left in deck.
Oh man.
I was like, I was close, but there was just not enough time on the clock, unfortunately. I kind of wish I scooped game 1 earlier, but I also wouldn't have known he ran a Cologne. Like, it got me information, but I don't think having that information was worth not getting a tie, you know? So, that one, but he played really good. He was a nice guy. Like, it is what it is. I didn't prepare for the Zard matchup, I think, as much as I think I should have, but this was just another one of those rounds where I drew into no Aries and no Sisters, so I couldn't attack his Rods, Colognes, his anything. So that was a bit unfortunate. My Sisters always seem to disappear when I need them most.
Were they able to get Pidgeot on board or no? Did he use Pidgeot?
Yeah.
Or he did?
Yeah, he got Pidgeot out intentionally just because him being able to cherry pick those pieces is insane.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, okay. So, round 9 starting with the loss. Round 10 against Octavio Morales. Anything you remember from that matchup?
This was the tie. This one, entirely my fault. So, it was against a Gardevoir. I was like, okay. I played against Dylan so much. I got this.
You're right. This
is my matchup.
Guardy Bennett, I'm assuming?
No, Guardy, just Turbo Guardy with Secret Box.
Okay.
Yeah. Game 1, all my flutes missed. I was like, this is not good. And he managed to trash his Manaphy, his Double Monkey, his Screamtail, his Drifloon. I was like, this is bad. But towards the end, he had like 2 prizes left. He had 2 Guardies and a Flutter Mane on board. I was like, if I don't get some random basic right now, I'm scooping. But even then, there's probably not enough time because there's only 15 minutes left on the clock. I Erica's and I hit a Greninja. He took off the prizes. Thank goodness. So I trapped that guy, and at that point, the game's over. And it comes down to who decks out first. I Silened 6 times. All of them were double tails. And I prized my Team Yell and my other Silene. So I had no more ways of recovery.
Oh, man.
So it came down to the last... how did it come down to? I'm forgetting. I managed to... How did I do it? I had a Flute left in deck. And he super rotted all basic Pokemon, which I think was a misplay. You grab the Curlias and stuff. So I can't flute it. I was like, okay, boxed orders, flute. All of his decks is basics. He has bench space. I win. He scoops it up, goes game 2. There's 12 minutes left. What I should have done is just do I'm going to bench 6 guys. Good luck.
Okay.
I could not find any basics. I don't know where they went. They were not near me. So I was really struggling to find my Pokemon, and he was just drawing the nuts. It was crazy. Like, his opening hand had Ultra Ball, Fez, Manaphy, Grab Greninja, Earthen Vessel to Greninja. I was like, this is bad. This got real bad real quick. If I had... there was a couple ways I could have won. One, just... There shouldn't have been enough time. However, I just didn't have Pokemon. I just had no Pokemon to bench and just say good luck, right? Like, there should... And I punch myself in the face now because during the game 1, he had Iono before taking a prize. He took a prize, he didn't grab it, he Iono'd. We have to call Judge just to see what's up, and that gets him a 2-minute time extension, and he ends up winning because of the 2-minute time extension.
Okay.
And then, at the very end, when our time extension is about to run out, he does his turn, pass. What I had learned in the round before is, if you don't draw your card, it's not your turn yet. The opponent still turns 0. At least that's what the judges told me, like the head judge. That until I draw my card, you're still 0.
Right.
And there was 3 seconds left on the clock. Had I just not drawn the card for 3 seconds, he's 0, cannot take all the prizes, I win. I unfortunately, however, drew it. Time is immediately called. I'm 0. There's no way for me to win now. He just screamtails twice, kills my Relaxes a luxurious cape for 2 prizes, and then takes the last one. Unfortunately, I couldn't find Penny or Arvin or anything really to like pick up my luxurious cape. It was a mess of a game. Unfortunately, that one did end. He got it at the very last turn. I the day after I was like, why did I draw that card, man? If I just not drawn the card, then I was fine. But I did, unfortunately. That got him the tie, and that was it.
Okay. So here, this is where, I guess, for it being your first regional, you take that experience with you, right? And now for next time, because it seems like with day 2, obviously you're playing against more experienced players that know what they're doing and know how to manage the clock and whatnot. But also, I guess, on your end, some of the stuff that you picked up along the way of what you learned. So now for next time at least, for the next upcoming regionals. But yeah, that's just unfortunate. Sometimes it goes like that too. But nevertheless, it was a tie, and could have been a win, right? So
no, for sure. Like it was absolutely over with the clock, but a couple things didn't line up correctly. But it is what it is. We learned. We got experience.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so 11, Eric got a 1 there. So
this was I forget if it was. Oh no, it was a Maridon. This is the first Maridon I fought of the weekend.
Oh, okay.
I don't know where they all went. I love fighting Maridon. That matchup's great. It is now. I remember when you beat me, it was not as good. It's fine now. What's it called? I was like, I can't wait to run into Maridons this weekend. They all dodged me. I was very sad. But this one was Maridon, and in this matchup these days, the plan is due to the tandem unit gaming, unless you float and hit something, which is actually pretty likely, considering Maridon is playing 6 or 7 liabilities. Flute has a pretty good chance of hitting, but if they get to go first, which I was blinding second all weekend being scared of the turbos, you immediately get to tandem unit, fill your bench from liabilities. Like, this is not good. So the new plan is count how many energies everything needs to swing on board. And Maridon's lowest being Raikou, and most expensive being Hands. He benched 2 Hands, 2 Maridons, Mew, Zapdos. Zapdos, the Pokemon Go one?
Yeah.
Which I think was a mistake, because he already had Mew on board for Mimikyu. I don't know why I did that. But, it was like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He needed like 16 energies or whatever the math is to swing. I was like, okay. The plan is simple. Wait for him to charge 1, gust something on the bench. Make him charge it, gust something else. Like, the plan just became gust, and force him to pay for everything, which they physically cannot afford. Like, they're short 1 or 2 energies, plus with handheld fan, there is no way they can pay for everything. We did manage to sneak that game in. I did learn they had a couple switch cards, which, if you look at the winning Rhydon list, I want to say there was no switch outs. It's Latias and a Prayer.
Latias pretty much.
So, I was hoping it was that build. It was not. But, I was like, okay, game 2, we should be fine. And it ended, how did it go? Once again, he got to 10 unit, fill up his bench from liability. It's like, uh-oh. Not good. But I think at that point, there was some time left. But my sisters managed to hit their switch outs. And he did a judge after dismantling my board. I was like, this is bad. If I don't draw a gust, we lose. I draw no gusts. I was like, this is bad. Top deck Arvin, we're fine. Counter catcher, that's game. It was a crazy game. I got lucky. We take those.
All right, and then of course, last but not least, round 12 against Jack Bray.
This was a Drago. So this guy was really good. I've never fought a Drago who's as good as the matchup as this guy.
Okay.
That was it was spooky stuff. Spooky stuff. Game one, he started Kirim, and he
Okay.
price checked immediately. He price checked Cologne, Switch, Prime, Jamming Tower. Scooped it up. Fair enough. You are not winning that.
Yeah.
There's no universe. Game two, I get dismantled. He sets up all the math super well with Dragapult pings, and then goes for a Kirim board wipe. It was crazy.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And this was the final set of the tournament, right? But it was also the fun time of no sisters or Aries in sight. It was crazy. I don't know where they keep running to. Not in my hand though. I got to swing no Aries, no sisters. But so I couldn't attack his Switch, his Prime, his Cologne, anything.
Okay.
So he actually has 6 outs if I don't get to do anything because like he can always V-start back.
Right.
Like, this is real bad. And game 3, we were going back and forth. He was trying to set up the Kirin play again. I was more wise to it though. Like I was paying attention to that 110 math specifically, trying to play around the jamming tower, and we were managing to do it. He was so smart with how he benched his stuff too. Like it was crazy. He was okay benching Cleffa and Squawk just to keep me from getting the Kirin, which I thought was very like. He wouldn't bench a second Drago. It's all Ogerpon, 2 Ogerpons, a Drago, and then he'd bench his own Cleffa and Squawk, which I thought was crazy, but then I was losing, so I can't really say anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean at some point there's 2 ways to go against it, at least in my opinion. I feel like you either that vibe, that kind of tactic is killed or be killed. So he just kind of like, no, you know what, like I just fill it up myself, but I'm gonna go after you, you know.
yeah,
so.
like I'm gonna end this before you get set up,
Right.
which he was doing. It was not going great,
Right.
but at the very end, it came down to he had 2 cards left in deck, and we were playing a game of chicken of when does he V-star to get the stuff back, to rip the V-star, risk decking out, but he did an improper price check. He thought he had Iono in deck still. It was top left prize, his second Iono. So he was waiting till the last card because he thought it was Iono, and then he was gonna V-star Iono, and then I lose. But I think he could have done it a couple ways. I'm pretty sure I was talking to him after, like before we had scooped up the cards and everything. I was pointing out to him, if he got Cologne Super Rod, I lose again. Because by the end of the game, I had no Snorlaxes on board. I had a Mimikyu in the front, a Cornerstone in the back, and a Please Don't Hurt Me. But that's why we're having to play chicken with the Cologne, because it was like, if I pick up the Cornerstone and he grabs Cologne too early, then he's just killing a Mimikyu, and I have another one, and he can't get past the last one because he already used it. It was a whole mess. And he didn't see the out of just immediately Cologne kill Mimikyu, and then use Mew EX to knock out the Cornerstone. Since Cornerstone's attack is a Shred, the Shred will go through the ability of can't be hit by abilities, even though Mew has one. Mew is hitting you with a Shred, technically. It goes through, you get hit. But he didn't recognize that's what I was scared of. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I lose here. He didn't see it though. He wanted to clone the Cornerstone. Like for some reason, that's what he was dead set on. Is like, I have to clone Cornerstone. I have to clone Cornerstone. And that managed to sneak me the win. And when it was last turn, I asked him, "Can you V-star if your deck is empty?" He said, "No." Like, oh, cool, I win. Like, you can't do this on one turn. So we like signed a slip. He was a really, really nice. We had that was my favorite opponent. That was during the regional. Like I don't know how to describe it. I thought the players were going to be a lot better. Just because I'm not saying I'm crazy or anything, but I'm more scared of fighting Leo at home. I'll be so real. Like I dread running into Dylan or Leo, but against most of my opponents over there, other than this guy, I was like, it's okay. Like I can keep up. I got this. But this guy was, in my opinion, strictly better. I couldn't describe why, but he feels like a much better player than I am. But we take those, right? He didn't see the final line he needed to see. We got the win. I ended at 8, 7,
Mm-hmm.
8, 7, 732, 832, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up 135th.
Yeah, I did see that on your social media at 135. So yeah. I mean, overall, it just seemed like usually the first couple of rounds, you know, at any regionals, you're going against unknowns. You know, people at locals, people. It does happen from time to time that you do early rounds play against somebody that's seasoned or a player that does play professionally, you know. So I mean, round one you're going against Azul. It's like, okay, you know, you don't need coffee because you're gonna wake up.
Yeah, like real fast.
Real fast. But most of the time, the first couple of rounds, you're going against somebody kind of the unknowns. It's not until the later rounds, essentially. But in your case, day two, you know. But again, you know, quite the meta call too to play Block Snorlax because. You know, you're just keeping everybody honest as far as resources, and that's probably an extra element that people take it for granted, as far as, at least in my opinion, even locally, you know, that we just essentially you have to play a different game, you know, against the Block Snorlax, and you have to, I mean, and to anyone out there, if you haven't noticed by now, I mean, when you hear Alejandra talk, I mean, you can already hear like the line of play she already knows. And so when you know your deck so well, that's kind of the language the verbiage you want to hear from a player is, you know, but if you're talking to somebody, and especially with Billy, you know, I know Billy plays the jank stuff, but when Billy knows more lines of plays of your deck than you do against him, then that's a problem. You know, in my opinion, if he sees more line of plays, especially after a game like why didn't you, or and that, I mean, that's just, it's a big tell right there, you know. So if anyone's listening, of course we are, you know, you can definitely notice that Alejandra's done the homework and knowing the line of plays, especially through when I judge these things, you know, I hear players tell Alejandra like, oh, well, you know, I needed this and all that. But then Alejandra rebuttals with, well, yeah, well, I was fine because I had this, this, and this, you know. That's just the golden rule, you know your deck first. And which you hear Alejandra basically praising Jack for knowing his line of play. And you can hear that, hey, you know, like, seemed like the better player lost, right? But you know, obviously Alejandra came out with the win on that one. So, and Jack did go 6-4-2, so you did get one game over than Jack. So, where was Jack from, by the way? Like, what part of the U.S.?
I don't remember. If I asked, I don't remember. Just because I got rattled after the Kyurem, so we had to lock in. So I don't really remember.
Yeah. And that's and listening to your story kind of reminded me, I think this was after the pandemic. I went to a Wisconsin regional, and I know I was playing Arceus Inteleon, and I remember playing against a Mew VMAX player deck, and I remember he's a Yu-Gi-Oh player basically, but very cocky guy, you know, just very like, you know, he was really whooping me, and I was like, okay, and he got careless, and so I kind of checked his discard pile, and I realized, hey, he's out of energy, he's out of outs. So all I did was boss his Genesect, and he was like, oh crap, yeah, I can't do anything, you win, you know. And then game got serious after that, you know, and listening to Alejandra's curing plays, you know, like, so, you know, but yeah, it's crazy sometimes, like the line of plays that we see, or sometimes you have to get creative in how you win games sometimes. But against a Block Snorlax, like, you have to be creative, you know, to play against it or to win in that sense. So, okay. So overall, pretty much you heard Alejandra's record, and pretty much at that point, you just kind of grab dinner, kind of get ready to leave. Did you leave on Monday, or did you leave Sunday night after the tournament?
Since we had to rebook our flights, we ended up leaving Monday morning.
Okay.
We left Monday around. The flight took off at 1. We headed to the airport at like 10:30 ish. we had to travel like 12 hours to get back home because of layovers, and
Yeah.
then the flight got delayed, and we had to run to our gate. Like, it was a mess, but we got home, and we had to drive back home from Harlingen, but we got there. We got
Yeah.
there.
What was the for your placement for what you got? 132, 135,
5,
135.
135.
What did you get for pricing? Did you just get points or did you get packs or?
Half a box.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Cool. 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 So.
Yeah, I haven't opened them yet. I don't know if I'm gonna like open them or sell them, but I got them.
Oh, were they surging sparks?
Yes.
Cool. 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 Half a box. Awesome. Yeah. So overall, in closing thoughts, Alejandra, what did you? In closing thoughts, what did you think of your overall tournament experience, and what did you think you learned from it, and what do you think you can take from that moving forward into your next regionals? Assuming you're probably going to go to San Antonio.
For sure. I'm planning to go to San Antonio, NAIC, and I'm trying to go to one more, like maybe the Georgia one. I don't know, but I'm trying to go to stuff. I've got the bug, just because playing regional is so different. It's so different than locals. It's like, not to say like locals aren't important to play in.
Mm-hmm.
Regionals are just like in my head real. Like, that was real Pokemon for a weekend. It's just different. It's just different, and I want to play more of that.
Yeah, it definitely is a different vibe, and we I don't and definitely Alejandro and I, we don't mean that in a bad way to the locals, because you don't get that unless you have locals, right? That's really how.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's a different vibe because everyone there just loves Pokemon, and best players or not, they're there and they really love the game, and Pokemon itself, the VGC, the TCG, the Pogo, even the Unite, when it fired off. It's just a great atmosphere to be in, all positivity. Everyone's so nice, the community. You'll have your moments, right? You'll have that one toxic player, but and jokingly I say this, but hopefully Alejandra can confirm this, but everyone there wears deodorant. So
It's true. It's true.
yeah, once in a full moon you'll get the guy, right, or the girl, like, okay, yeah, like, damn, but everyone's there pretty clean, but
Mhm.
but I'm sure somebody out there that's gonna listen, maybe Dylan or Billy, they can say otherwise. So
Sure, for sure.
sure.
But yeah, I need to go play in more regions now. We're hooked.
Yeah. So all right.
Next time, top 32. Trust.
Well, I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Next time is top 32. Trust.
Top 32. Well, I think I think you can make a top 8 one day. That's just my opinion. Like, I really, and I think you can. Why not? That's the way I see it. I mean, we're here. And that's the problem with some people. When you think very low, in the sense, well, I want to make day 2. Well, if you say that, then you're not making day 2. You're gonna maybe get 4 wins. But if you think bigger, then bigger's better. So, but yeah, but that's a reasonable goal. Top 32, right? So, and then watch Alejandra win the regional. We're like, well, okay, what happened?
Yep, the plan. I will simply run into 8 Raging Bolts and farm my way through. The plan is simple.
Yeah, the plan is simple. So, all right. So before we kind of close it off, is there anything else you want to say out there to the entire TCG community or the RGV, or any shout outs, or anyone out there you want to talk smack or say anything out there? Or any
Dylan
shops?
sucks. Dylan sucks. He didn't make day 2.
Okay.
Let's see. Pocket V2 opened. That's cool. Thank you to Pocket and Kaboom for always being like real supportive when we're going to stuff. After I'd won the cup at Stronghold,
Mm-hmm.
I immediately got a call from Leo saying like congratulations stuff. That was so nice. That was great. Pocket's real great store. Go check it out if you're local. If you know, you know. But go buy their ETBs, please. It's good for the store. Good for everyone. They host real great locals. Kaboom's great. Stronghold's great. Like, we have a really good local scene. No one plays Switches, so that's fun for me. Yeah, really great local scene. Very supportive. I got a bunch of comments on Facebook after I said I did it. Like, a bunch of supports. Like, a bunch of congratulations. That was really nice. Overall, it was really fun. I'm excited for the next one. Playing applesauce this weekend because there's too many wrong moons now.
Okay, all right. Do you plan to go to the Cup in Corpus or Stronghold League Challenge?
That's this weekend, right?
Yeah, it's this weekend. So, oh, you don't have to answer
It,
that. You know, we don't want to answer that because we don't want anyone to know
it's true.
what you're
It's true.
what you're brewing. So
What's the move? It's true.
we'll leave it at that. So, all right, everyone. So thank you for listening today. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this interview with Alejandra Flores. From McAllen, Texas. Yes, is that what I'm understanding?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
From McAllen, Texas, making day 2 at the Pokemon Regionals in Sacramento, California. And we're glad that she did really well. With that being said, we hope you tune into next time. Next episode will be with Billy the Goat, talking about his run and his day event. So he's no stranger to the podcast, but everyone is calling for him, so we cannot leave him out. So we got that scheduled up. So with that being said, this is KG from Jaw 7 signing off. Have a good day and take care.
Thank you, guys.